Hello, and thank you for joining me on the Adaptive Men podcast. I'm your host, Michael Reed, and today I want to do a little bit something different. I want to go through some suggestions and tips I'd like to give to anybody who's listening who is aware of or currently dealing with a man in their life. Could be a father, a brother, a friend, a husband, even a son who is going through some emotional difficulties, who is going through a hard time, and it's pretty obvious to you that they don't want to open up or they're not interested in accepting your help, or you see that they have a lot of problems and you feel like you could throw them some support and fix their problems and help them get support, and because they're in a bad place and you just feel like I want to do something to fix this, I want to do something to help, and maybe they're not responding very well. I want to go through a couple things to understand the mindset a little bit better of what's going through his head, how you might build some emotional support and connection, and how you might offer guidance in a way that actually resonates more with how a man would traditionally operate. So, a simple thing would be that if you have somebody in your life, this is really more a response to the fact that I've had a lot of people, not a lot of people, a good amount of people in my life, both friends, family, even people I haven't spoken to in a very long time, who have been starting to reach out to me looking for some guidance and some support around men in their lives who are struggling. And for a variety of reasons, struggling with a number of things. And it's obvious to people on the outside that they're struggling, they're not doing too well, but they themselves are reluctant to seek out assistance and seek out help. And within that, the first thing I make a point about emotional support and connection is to make sure you're not pushing or pressuring the man to do what needs to be done, whatever it may be. If he's dealing with a toxic relationship, if he's dealing with, financial difficulties, whatever the problem is, the more you push, the more the person is going to push back. And that essentially is just a function of human nature and human autonomy. We are naturally stubborn creatures, men especially. We're not as naturally social as women tend to be. We tend to isolate, we tend to want to do our own thing. And the more you put the pressure of trying to solve his problems or getting him to solve his problems, it starts to add this extra layer of responsibility to him. Not only are his problems, but now they're becoming your problems in his eyes. And it's adding even more emotional stress to trying to open up and deal with the situation. And it's hard enough if there's a man in your life or there's a man who is struggling with something that they're having a hard time opening up about and talking about, to feel like I've got to fix this for myself, but now people around me are pushing me and pressuring me to fix it for them too. And now I've got this multitude of a burden of just my problems now starting to affect everyone else. And it just jacks up the stress. So understand that at the end of the day, it's all really about him choosing to open up on his own terms when he's ready. And it can be painful. It can be difficult to watch the men in your life, especially nowadays with how bad the numbers are looking around male statistics and the suicide rate and the divorce rate and unemployment and all that fun stuff, to watch them go through the hell that they're putting themselves through. But ultimately, you have to acknowledge that it's going to be his decision to open up, because if it's not his decision and it's forced on him, he's never going to learn the lessons. He's never going to grow from the pain that he's currently enduring to reshape the behavior so it doesn't repeat into the future. If you do decide to check in, if you decide to reach out, what I would encourage you to think about is structured softness with gentle check ins. And what I mean by this is to be firm yet compassionate. So, a simple thing that I like to do with some of my male friends, or if I have people in my life, and guys I know are having a hard time. I know what's going on behind the scenes. I know what's happening with their family. I know more than they probably wish I knew, but they've confided in me. And they don't really want to talk about it. Once every 2 to 3 weeks, maybe if it's more detrimental and dire and serious in the short, maybe once every couple of days, I might shoot them a text or a message over a DM, usually not a phone call, usually just like a text, something simple like, hey, how's everything going? And you giving me an answer of everything is fine is complete bullshit, and we both know it. But I'm just not here to judge you. I'm just checking in. If ever you want to chat, let me know. In a way, what you're doing there is, again, it's that structured softness. You're basically saying to them, I know you're going through some hard shit right now, and I'm not going to judge you for it because it sucks. And I'm not going to add an extra layer of you need to fix it because it's bothering me. I'm just letting you know that I can see it, but I'm here when you're ready, Whenever you want to start talking, if you ever even need to talk, maybe you've got this all figured out by yourself, maybe you're doing fine, whatever it may be on his end, ultimately, again, it comes back to his being his own decision, but letting them know, like, lovingly, you can't fool me. Lovingly, I know your life sucks right now. Lovingly, I know you're in a dark place. But if ever you want someone to sit there with you, if ever you need someone to just listen, and if you are so lucky as to get a man who actually does want to just divulge and divest everything and basically open up, just listen. Very often, the most common mistake I think I see is people trying to give advice to solve a problem, which is a very common issue we see with like men trying to solve women's issues. But even in the case of men, if you have a man that comes to you and he might quite literally need to emotionally fall apart, just sit there, just listen, just sit there. Let him process whatever's happening emotionally, his anger, his rage, his sadness, his grief, whatever he's feeling, whatever he needs to do, just let him just cool. Tell me more. Cool. What was that like? All right. Tell me more about that. I'm curious more about that. Non-judgmental support and just emotional space if you get so lucky to find something like that. Next up, I want to talk a little bit more about understanding why are men so reluctant to seek this help, because it feels like, well, I have your solutions, I can come along and I can help you, I can fix your things, why don't you want to talk to me? Nowadays a lot of men are being very heavily displaced from traditional identities that for a very, very, very long time, and even arguably is somewhat ingrained in a man's DNA, sitting somewhere in that Y chromosome, there's an identity crisis going on. And a lot of men, if a man is out of work and he's no longer able to provide, if a man is going through a divorce and he's no longer a husband, if a man has children and he's estranged from them and he's no longer feels like he's able to be a father, there's an internal dialogue going on saying, like, if I'm not a husband, if I'm not a father, if I'm not a provider, then who am I? What am I? And a lot of this emotional distress going on is happening because his very identity is being disrupted in a heavy way. And a big part of this problem of having to go through a process of grieving old identities to say, maybe you were a husband and now you're getting divorced and you're no longer a husband. Maybe you were a provider and you lost your job. Now you're no longer a provider, at least until you find a new job. Maybe you were a father and for some reason you're estranged from your children, or you lost a child, whatever it may be. That process can be extremely jarring for your psychology to have to root out and unearth your identity in a way. And a lot of men, through a lot of cultural conditioning over a long period of time, have been told, you've got to keep your shit together. You got to hold it together. And to break down and go through that process of letting your identity kind of unravel in order to make room for the new one is an emotionally taxing process. It's difficult. And a lot of men, like I said before, they've been taught a lot of their worth comes from keeping their shit together, not having any problems, dealing with it, sucking it up, pushing it down, and just keep going. And to then have these same men come to you one day and basically, or to them try to come to them to help have them get some support, it feels contrary to the identity that they've been created, that they've been conditioned into from a young age. So just to understand that if they have any skepticism around therapy or talking to a coach or joining a men's group or just even opening up to one of their close friends about whatever they're going through, a lot of this skepticism is coming from past experiences, from cultural conditioning, and genuinely from a fear of letting go of old identities, because again, it's a scary, it's a jarring process to go through. It's not easy for our minds to not have something to anchor onto as to what our role and our job is in the world outside of just existing. Even deeper than that, though, in terms of therapy and coaching, a lot of men may have a very difficult time opening up emotionally to women in their lives, especially if they're married, maybe to their mothers or their sisters, whatever it may be. A large portion of the psychological industry is female dominated. So when a lot of men think of therapy, they think of having to open up to a woman. Not all therapists are women, but a better portion, 80% plus, social workers, therapists, psychotherapists, psychiatrists, tends to be leaning a little bit heavier towards female-dominated industry. And a lot of men do not have the comfort innately in their nervous system, in their psychology, from their own lived experience of opening up emotionally to a woman, especially if at some point in their life growing up, they just weren't allowed to. They weren't allowed to cry. They were not allowed to have problems. Or even worse, sometimes they just didn't see their dad cry. They didn't see their dad open up. They didn't see their dad process emotion properly. They saw their dad drink it like crazy. They saw their dad jump on pornography, so whatever it may be. They avoided, they numbed out, they used drugs, they used TV, whatever it may be. They didn't properly deal with their stress in a healthy way. And then these young men who were young boys turn into, fully grown adult men, learn the same process and just repeated it over and over and over again. So understanding that it's not necessarily an outright reluctance and stubbornness to seek help. A lot of it is wired deeply into his psychology, deeply into his nervous system from a very young age, saying, if you seek help, there's something wrong with you. If you're not a husband or a father or provider, then what are you? What else could you be aside from nothing? And it's a difficult thing for men to try to grasp onto and understand and move through in a healthy way. So as for support and guidance, we'll say this is part 3, support and guidance. What can you do? If a man does come to you looking for support or is looking for some ideas or looking for some input, ideally they come to you because they want to, it's just emotional event. They don't want any input. They want any advice. It's fine. Just listen. Just shut up and listen. Sometimes all they really need is someone to just witness them and hear them go through it. But they're looking for guidance. They're looking for support. Reframing can help a lot when it comes to emotional digestion for men. A lot of men look at emotions as a very feminine or girly thing, when in reality, not digging too deep into the science here, but emotions are completely natural to our species. They're basically information that is being clogged in our mental pipes for too long, that hasn't been processed and fully properly digested. So what I like to tell men sometimes, if they're feeling numb, they're feeling like they're pushing things, they don't feel anything. I can't feel anything. I was actually the opposite of that. What they're feeling is too much. They're topped off. I like to frame it as emotional constipation. Like you are so backed up with grief, sadness, anger, rage, confusion, doubt, embarrassment, fear, whatever it may be. You've just been building and building and building, and it's so backed up, your brain basically just clogged itself. You're emotionally constipated. And it's probably been a really long time since you took a really good shit. And until you take that really good emotional dump, it's just going to continue. And so looking at it as like a healthy expression of like, you would not feel good if you hadn't shit in a couple days. How are you expected to feel good if you have got emotions that are sitting backlogging in your head, in your brain, causing all this stress and tension to build up? So it may be in your best interest to find a way to emotionally dump that stuff out and get it out of your system rather than trying to hold it in a healthy setting. Second thing is to make sure, like I said earlier, to give him agency. Make sure he has autonomy. Make sure he understands he has autonomy, that he is in control of what he chooses to do. You have people you know, if you have a coach you know, a therapist you know, a men's group you know of, or a person can talk to and open up to and feel confident with, whatever it may be, to really make sure he understands, like, ultimately it's your choice. Ultimately, you are the one that is in control of your life and your emotions, your decisions, and you will choose what you want to do. Cannot force you, cannot make you. And even if I could force you and make you, it wouldn't even stick. Because again, it has to be a matter of your choice to choose to unravel those emotions and unravel those behaviors in a controlled setting. Thirdly, would be to try to encourage him to find healthy masculine spaces. This is fantastic if you can find a good therapist who understands men fundamentally, a good men's coach who understands male psychology and how it operates a little bit differently, or even better, if you can, there are plenty of men's groups out there. Mankind Project, the Alliance, Iron Council. There's a lot of different men's groups, and especially even like the less popular ones, and maybe even one in his city nearby, especially if you can go to like a local church or some kind of religious group. Sometimes they have men's leagues where you can literally go and it's only exclusively men, like a men's club, to actually open up and digest and have this space where they can basically open up amongst trusted men that are not going to judge them, that are not going to interrogate them, not going to put some kind of label on him because of what he's going through, who understands what they're doing. And ultimately, at the end of this all, patience and consistency is your best friend. If you've got a man in your life that is struggling with certain things and you can see, I know he would feel better if he did this, I know he'd feel better if he did that, not shoving it down his throat, not pushing it on him, be patient, because it can take a lot for men to work up the internal dialogue and courage to say out loud, you know what, maybe this is bigger than me. Maybe I do need some support, but ultimately it has to be his decision. And If he does come to you and say those things, that he doesn't want to open up and discuss things and vent a little bit, whatever it may be, that great. Even if you've known this for months or years and they've been like fucking finally now you want to start doing something serious. No. Cool. Thank you. Awesome. Let me help you find the resources you need. And again, consistency. It may not be in the first try, maybe in the second try, maybe in the 10th try. But once every couple of weeks, just shoot him a text, shoot him a message, whatever it may be. Just checking in. I know things are pretty bad for you right now, but just checking in. And, I just want to see how you're doing. If you can give me an honest update, I'm not going to give you any advice. I just want to know honestly how things are going. And everything is fine. It's bullshit. And we both know it, but I'm saying this because I care about you. And I just want to know how you're doing. Let me know. That all being said, let me know if this resonated with you. If you've got a man in your life right now you feel like you're having trouble connecting with, maybe this will be of support. If you know somebody else who has a man in their life who's having trouble connecting with and trying to get some support to it, I would encourage you to share this with them, as it really be appreciative in helping the child grow. Until next time, I'll see you next week.